Ag Matters is underwritten by Ag West Farm Credit. Ag West Farm Credit is a financial cooperative that provides financing, crop insurance, and related services to farmers and ranchers across the West. From small family businesses to large operations, Ag West brings the experience and financial know-how to help you grow your best future.
Welcome to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to Ag Matters. I'm your host, Ken Hoffman. I'm a farmer out here in Palmer with a little farm called Matsu Microgreens, and I'm also with the Farm Bureau. But today, I get to talk to a friend of mine, Al Poindexter at Anchor Point Greenhouse, who won the Farm Family of the Year this year. So we're really excited, and we wanted to have a chat with Al. So, Al, how are you doing today?
Well, pretty busy, but let's chat.
All right, sounds good. So would you start us off with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in Alaska and in agriculture?
Well, that was pretty easy. I was born here. That's how I ended up in Alaska.
Perfect. Well, how'd you get into agriculture? Were you also born in agriculture as well?
Well, kind of. When I was real small, we ran a chicken farm for another fellow in Seward. We started out managing 1,500 chickens, and we grew that operation to 17,000 chickens. And it was doing pretty well. It was under the Totem Egg brand. And then the earthquake came and kind of squashed all the chickens, so that put us out of business.
Okay.
So that was a start. Then my dad always wanted a cattle ranch, and they heard that there was a land auction in Anchor Point. So we moved over here since we didn't have anything left in Seward. Instead of buying land, we ended up leasing about 4,000 acres and built a cabin back about 5 miles behind where the Russian village is. There was no Russian village at the time. We backpacked everything out because there was no such thing as four-wheel drive, and there was no four-wheelers and no snow machine, so it was all hoofing it. Mm-hmm. We brought down 100 cows and about 100 goats and set up shop out there in the Caribou Hills. That ended up being a failure because we didn't have enough infrastructure, number one. And number two, there was no USDA slaughterhouse, so it was very difficult to get rid of the meat. So that project failed after about 3 years. And then I was teaching at Homer High School, and I was a phys ed teacher at the time. My dad was a janitor, but they put him in an ag class because they couldn't find an ag teacher, and he taught for a while. And then eventually I ended up taking over that program. And then my dad got rather ill, and we knew he liked growing stuff. So my brothers and I all pitched in and built him a state-of-the-art greenhouse. And then after he died, I kind of took over and kind of grew. We went from one greenhouse to 12 greenhouses pretty quickly, and that's where I'm at now. That's amazing.
So at your greenhouse, what are you growing? What are you selling?
Well, we grow quite a few tomatoes and cucumbers, so we have a hard time keeping that on the shelf. As soon as they're picked, they're out the door. We sell almost everything here, but we did plant a lot of extra field crops like broccoli and cauliflower, zucchini, and that kind of stuff. And Charlie's Produce is taking the extra surplus along with Save More store in Homer and everything else. But we're selling about $1,000 worth of produce a day right here at the store.
Wow, it's amazing. So at the store, do you have like nursery products or potting soil? What else do you guys sell?
Oh, yeah. We have a regular garden center here. We've got supplies for any kind of a garden project and fertilizers and pots and, extra little doodads that folks need garden with. We also have a lab upstairs where we process rhodiola tincture and rhodiola capsules.
Okay. Well, tell us more about the rhodiola.
Well, rhodiola, I became a partner with a doctor in Anchorage, Dr. Illig, and we started growing rhodiola, and we're trying to find more farmers that want to grow it. It's a fairly lucrative crop. It takes 4 years to grow it and harvest it, and then we have a wash station and a slicer and a dehydrator here that we built, and then we built a lab upstairs, and we go from field to finished product right here, and most of our rhodiola products are sold online.
Okay. And what are some of the benefits of taking these rhodiola products?
Well, they say that it provides endurance, so there are a lot of athletes and Russian military and other people take it for added endurance. It's also helps with mental focus. Airline pilots take it for mental focus, and people with attention deficit will use it to help them maintain focus. And it also reduces anxiety. Those are the primary benefits of rhodiola.
Okay, cool. Well, so I was just there a couple months ago and I got to see your place and see the lab. It's pretty neat. But one of the most fascinating parts of your farm, and I know you're pretty famous for this, is the Fishy Peat. So if you wouldn't mind telling us the history of Fishy Peat soil and how you got into that and what it is.
Well, that started with my dad. He was really interested in trying to figure out how to utilize waste, fish waste and seaweed that washed up on the beach and local peat that seemed to be in a lot of abundance. And so he experimented for about 7 years trying to perfect a potting soil that would work. And then he started growing tomatoes, found out that they really grew well. The fact is, I haven't been able to match what he used to do, but he couldn't sell them. And so we ended up plowing those into the field and then tried selling regular plant starts. And that didn't work out too well because we were kind of off the highway, off the road, and a lot of people didn't know we were here. And so he said, well, heck, I'm just going to sell the dirt. And I thought, well, Dad, who's going to buy dirt? I said, that's as bad as trying to sell water. Look where we are now. Anyway, that was back in the day. And so he started bagging up some of his Fishy Peat soil and put a sticky label on it and hauled it around to all the stores, asked folks he could have some of their shelf space, and then he would split the money with them if they sold it. Home marijuana growers discovered that it grew marijuana really well, and so then launched that product, and we've been at it ever since.
That's amazing. So how many bags of Fishy Peat are you selling throughout the state?
Well, let me think about that for a second. What's 500 times 40? About 20,000 bags of Fishy Peat and about 20,000 bags of Alaska earth.
Okay. Yeah. And where can you buy it? Because I know you can buy it all over the state.
We distribute it all over the highway system. It's all the way from, actually, we even shipped some to the North Slope, but all the way from Fairbanks to Kodiak. Different places carry it. Three Bears is one of our biggest sellers. Alaska Mill and Feed and Diamond Greenhouse sells it in Anchorage. Lots of small stores, several greenhouses, and Alaska Feed Company in Fairbanks sells it. And all the way down to Homer. Homer sells about a third of all of it that I make, actually. Homer's a big buyer of it, and it seems like it's been fairly successful for most people.
Yeah, amazing. You're also famous in the world of FFA, right? You've been involved with FFA for a long time, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's been a while ago, but while I was teaching ag, obviously I ended up becoming an FFA advisor. And, FFA has struggled off and on throughout the years. Originally, the state provided a lot of support. We had, I believe, 30 different chapters all the way out in places like I forgot the name of it. There's a bunch of villages anyway. So there's a bunch of villages involved all the way from western Alaska to southeast, all the way up past Fairbanks. And then schools wouldn't rehire ag teachers, and the programs began to die. And at one point, we were down to about 3 chapters in the state. And then they hired Kevin Fox to come in from Montana, and he built it back up mostly through charter schools. So a lot of charter schools now are involved with FFA, but great program. And they have a degree system. So if you get all the way to the American degree, you are a professional farmer. I mean, you know your stuff, you know what you're doing, all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's a great program. It provides kids with the best leadership skills that I've seen compared to all the other leadership training programs. I think FFA beats them all. And of course, their knowledge and skill-wise, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I haven't been involved, for quite a few years now.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a good way to try to get more farmers in this state? Because I know we're losing farmers, we're losing farmland, we want to build agriculture. What are some ways you think we could build agriculture in this state?
Well, listen, we have 1 million acres identified soils that's good for agriculture, class 3 soils.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all been identified by NRCS and Soil and Water District. And so if we could populate that 1 million acres out of 365 million that the state has, we could populate that 1 million acres with small farms, then we would not have a boom and bust society, because any society without an ag base is doomed to boom and bust no matter what you do. And people continue to talk about food security. We would not only be food secure, but we'd also probably be an exporter of food, because lots of other places like Mexico, where we get our food, California and others, are struggling right now. And eventually we may be looking for other places to import food unless we develop our own ag base. So if every school had an ag program, a comprehensive 4-year ag program that teaches all the other industrial skills along with ag, like welding, like carpentry, and so forth, after a 4-year program, and a kid comes out with an American degree, which is pretty difficult to get, but if they come out with an American degree, this state should give them part of that 1 million acres to start farming. Mm-hmm. And I believe that if we did that, probably 1% of the kids that go through that program would become farmers. The rest of them will all be supporters of farming, either trucking or mechanics or whatever. I think that's the way, if our legislature would get off the ball and actually develop a comprehensive program like that, and then provide some free land for those kids to actually start farming. You can't import farmers from outside, because we have to do it differently here than they do outside. Mm-hmm. And so you got to forget everything you know anyway and start over. So might as well train our own farmers, the ones that want to stay here in Alaska, and I think you'd end up with a much better product that way.
Mm-hmm. So you think there's a lot of opportunity here in Alaska for agriculture? I know it's cold and sometimes it's difficult, but you think it's a good place to farm?
It's huge, but farming is kind of like fishing actually in this state. It's a short season, and once you're done with the short season, you're done for the year, because you sure can't farm in ice and snow, but I mean, you can do a lot of prep work. Mm-hmm. or obviously animals. I mean, cows and goats and sheep obviously would be a year-round program, but a lot of the produce stuff, and we can even grow grain here, and there's a fellow in Nenana now growing corn. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the climate niche you're in, will determine what kind of crops can be grown. But I think there's a huge opportunity for farmers. If somebody's chasing the almighty dollar and wants to get rich, probably this is not the game to be in. But if you like the lifestyle, and, it provides a decent living and provides a lot of work, jobs for folks and everything else, I think it has a huge opportunity. And this state would be much better off having that kind of ag base, that renewable resource base, fit into this economy.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, thank you so much, Al, for calling in. I want to ask you one more question about the Farm Family of the Year Award. What was your response when you heard that you were the winner?
Shocked. I still don't know who nominated us for that, but that's very nice, very considerate. But, they boosted me up amongst the kings of agriculture in this state, with Bell's Nursery and Vanderweel and the rest of those guys. I don't know that I even hold a candle to those guys, but it's much appreciated anyway.
Well, I was shocked too. I was shocked to hear that you had never won it before, because you're and at least in agriculture, you're a celebrity with Fishy Pete and Anchor Point Greenhouse and what you're doing with Rhodiola, and how many FFA advisors and teachers that said that you were one of their teachers. So it's pretty amazing the impact you've had here in Alaska in agriculture. So well deserved, I would say. We're really looking forward to seeing you this week.
Whoever's responsible for that, thank you, I guess. I wasn't looking for any accolades, but I will accept them.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the reception this week.
Yeah, in fact I'm boxing up a bunch of veggies to go up for that reception actually right now. Okay.
Well, I'm excited to try them out. Well, thank you, Al, for calling in. I know you're busy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. And thank you, everybody, for listening to today's show. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio. Ag Matters is a production of Radio Free Palmer, recorded at our studios in Palmer, Alaska. For more information about this program, email manager@radiofreepalmer.org.